Milk builds strong bones. You know this. You have known it since you were old enough to read the poster on the wall of a school cafeteria, the one with the smiling child and the glass of white liquid and the word calcium printed in a font designed to feel like a fact. That belief is so embedded, it does not feel like a belief anymore. It feels like biology. It feels like something discovered, not decided. So here is one number, one comparison, one measurement pulled from FAO and WHO nutritional databases that has been sitting in the public record for decades. Moringa oleifera leaf, 185 milligrams of calcium per 100 grams of fresh weight. Whole cow's milk, 113 milligrams per 100 grams. The chart on your school wall was sponsored by the same industry it was designed to promote. Welcome to the vault. You are spending money right now on a problem that a plant solved 10,000 years ago. And the average American household spends approximately $120 per year on calcium supplements alone, not counting the dairy products purchased specifically because of calcium content, not counting the fortified orange juice, not counting the antacids used as a calcium source by an estimated 43% of adults over 50. Americans spend $4 billion a year on calcium supplements for a deficiency that a weed in their garden has been offering to fix for 10,000 years. Moringa oleifera grows in a container. It grows in poor soil. It grows in drought. It asks almost nothing, and it returns 7 distinct food products from a single plant: fresh leaves, dried leaf powder, seed pods, seed oil, flowers, root preparations, and bark preparations, each with documented nutritional or culinary application. A family eating from one moringa tree in a modest garden plot can access more dietary calcium, more complete protein, and more iron than the same family buying the supplement stack currently sitting next to their kitchen sink. The cost of that stack, annually, would buy enough verified moringa seed stock to supply a neighborhood. That is not a metaphor. That is arithmetic. Now follow the timeline, because the timeline is where this story lives. Indigenous agricultural communities across the Indian subcontinent, sub-Saharan Africa, or in parts of Central America have documented moringa cultivation in oral and written records stretching back more than 4,000 years. By the 19th century, European colonial botanists had cataloged its properties in detail. The 1830 edition of the Pharmacopoeia of India includes moringa root bark as a documented medicinal preparation. The USDA's own botanical survey records from the early 1900s list moringa among plants of significant nutritional interest. None of this was secret, and all of it was published. Then the architecture of American nutritional guidance began to take shape. In 1917, the United States Department of Agriculture issued its first formal dietary guidelines, a document that established, for the first time, the idea of food groups as a federal framework. Dairy appeared as a cornerstone category. By 1924, the National Dairy Council, a promotional body funded by dairy processors, had established formal partnerships with the U.S. public school system to distribute nutritional education materials. Those materials emphasized milk. In 1941, the first official recommended dietary allowances were published by the National Academy of Sciences. The committee that produced them included representatives from the dairy and meat industries. In 1956, the USDA released the basic 4 food groups: milk, meat, in grains, fruits, and vegetables, a framework that would define American nutritional understanding for a generation. Researchers at the time noted that plant-based calcium sources received no dedicated category and no equivalent promotional infrastructure. In 1992, the USDA released the Food Pyramid. The Harvard School of Public Health published a formal objection in a peer-reviewed letter, noting that the pyramid's dairy recommendations were not supported by the weight of independent nutritional science, and that the guideline committee's composition included industry-affiliated members. The USDA published the pyramid anyway. In 2011, My Plate replaced the pyramid. Dairy retained its own dedicated plate segment, the only food group to appear as a separate circle alongside the main plate. Despite the WHO's position, and despite independent meta-analyses questioning the relationship between dairy consumption and fracture prevention. The timeline does not allege conspiracy. It documents decisions. It names the institutions. It records who was in the room. What it shows is a consistent pattern. Plant-based calcium sources were never given the institutional infrastructure, the school lunch funding, or the federal guideline real estate that dairy received. Not because the science required it, because the committees were shaped by the industry before the science was ever weighed. The numbers do not require interpretation. They require reading. Moringa leaf contains 185 milligrams of calcium per 100 grams fresh weight, documented in the FAO/WHO Food Composition Database. Cow's milk contains 113 milligrams per 100 grams. The difference is not marginal. It is 64% more calcium in the plant. Gram for gram, the leaf outperforms milk on calcium, spinach on iron, and yogurt on protein. And the root has been eaten as a vegetable on 4 continents for longer than Europe has had nation-states. The protein profile of moringa leaf contains all 9 essential amino acids, confirmed in analysis published by the Institute of Food Technologists in 2014, making it one of a small number of plant sources with a complete amino acid profile. Iron content, 4 milligrams per 100 grams of fresh leaf, compared to 0.03 milligrams in whole milk. The mechanism behind the anti-inflammatory properties involves a class of compounds called isothiocyanates, specifically moringin, documented in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology in 2014 to modulate inflammatory pathways at the cellular level. Antioxidant capacity measured by ORAC units places dried moringa leaf powder among the highest-scoring foods ever tested, 157,000 ORAC units per 100 grams, compared to blueberries at approximately 4,600. And the mechanism involves a concentration of polyphenols and flavonoids that increases significantly during the drying process. Researchers at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health have published work on moringa's role in addressing malnutrition in low-resource settings, work that documents the plant's nutritional density as a practical intervention, not a theoretical one. 7 food products. 1 root. The WHO has listed moringa as a recommended food source in its guidance for addressing nutrient deficiency in developing regions. That guidance exists. It has been in public circulation since the early 2000s. It has not made the evening news in the countries that spend $4 billion a year on calcium supplements. Here is the financial architecture, drawn entirely from public records. The dairy industry's annual federal lobbying expenditure, as reported to the Senate Office of Public Records and compiled by Open Secrets, has averaged between $5 million and $7 million per year over the past 2 decades. The National Dairy Council has administered school nutrition partnership programs in the United States since 1915, the same year it began publishing nutritional guidance for American children. That is not a coincidence to be alleged. That is a timeline to be read. The global dietary supplement market was valued at $177 billion in 2023. The calcium supplement segment alone represents a structurally stable revenue stream built on the continued belief that dietary calcium requires a purchased product rather than a cultivated plant. Patent activity around isolated calcium compounds, calcium carbonate, calcium citrate, calcium malate, represents a body of intellectual property that has no equivalent in the moringa supply chain, because you cannot patent a root that grows freely in 30 countries. Import restrictions on moringa-based food products in certain EU and North American markets have limited commercial availability in the precise geographies where calcium supplement spending is highest. Those restrictions are documented in trade filings. The financial logic is not difficult to follow, and following it requires no speculation, only arithmetic and a pacer account. If 1 root could replace 7 products on your supplement shelf, what exactly was the business model built on your not knowing that? Now here is what you can actually do, because knowledge without action is just a longer version of the problem. Moringa oleifera is legal to grow, purchase, and consume in all 50 U.S. states, across the EU, and in most jurisdictions worldwide. Verify your local regulations, as import rules on plant material vary by country. And this is not legal or medical advice. It is documented nutrition. If you are managing a calcium-related condition, Bring the FAO comparative data to your doctor and ask them to look at it with you. For growing, moringa thrives in USDA hardiness zones 9 through 11 outdoors year-round. In colder climates, grow it as a container plant and overwinter it indoors near a south-facing window. It will drop leaves in reduced light but survive and reflush in spring. The seeds are available from verified suppliers. Look for Moringa oleifera specifically, not ornamental relatives. Germination occurs in 5 to 12 days in warm soil above 65 degrees Fahrenheit. First harvestable leaves appear within 6 to 8 weeks. For preparation, fresh leaves can be added directly to soups, stews, and salads. Dried leaf powder, the most nutrient-dense form, should be prepared cold or added to food after cooking, because a study published in Food Chemistry in 2012 documented significant reduction in heat-sensitive compounds above 70 degrees Celsius. 1 teaspoon of dried leaf powder in a smoothie, in yogurt, or stirred into a glass of water represents a measurable nutritional intervention that costs, at verified supplier pricing, approximately 12 cents. The seed pods, called drumsticks, are a staple vegetable across South Asian cuisine, available fresh or frozen at most Indian grocery stores in Western cities. The seed oil, called ben oil, is cold-pressed and available through specialty suppliers. You do not need a prescription, a specialist, or a supplement budget. You need a pot, a south-facing window, and about 14 days. What changes now is not just what you eat. What changes is how you read. Every nutritional chart you have ever seen was produced by a committee. Every committee was composed of people. Every person in that committee had a professional history, a funding source, an institutional affiliation. That does not make every guideline wrong. It makes every guideline a document, something written by someone, for reasons that can be traced. You now know that the calcium story has a second source, a documented, measurable, 10,000-year-old second source that never received a poster in a school cafeteria. The most dangerous thing about this root is not what it contains. It is what it makes unnecessary. And that is the sentence you will take out of this room today. Not outrage, not a conspiracy, a different kind of reading. Because remember the chart, the one on the school cafeteria wall, the smiling child, the glass of milk, the word calcium in that confident font. You can see the architecture of it now. You can see who built the wall. That is not the end of something. That is the beginning of a different kind of literacy that no committee can revoke, because you did not get it from a committee. You got it from the record. And the record has been sitting there, waiting, the entire time. Share this with one person who is spending money on calcium supplements right now, because they deserve to see the FAO comparison before they buy the next bottle. Subscribe because the files in this archive are not finished. There are more suppressed timelines, more institutional documents, more nutritional histories that never made the poster on the wall. Every subscriber tells the platform that this kind of research has an audience that cannot be redirected to a sponsored post about the supplement they no longer need. Like this, because visibility is the only thing standing between this information and the algorithm that prefers to show you an advertisement for the deficiency this root already solved. And if sharing feels like a small act, consider who is sitting in your life right now, spending $40 a month on calcium carbonate tablets, eating carefully, trying to do the right thing, and working from a chart that was designed before anyone asked whether there was another option. There was always another option. Next, we open the file on a plant that the DEA listed as Schedule 1, while the US Army was issuing it to soldiers in field survival kits. Both things happened. In the same decade, we have the documents,